On this episode of The Setup, I want to talk about the Revolver technology from Stealth Cam. They've got a new camera. It's the Revolver Pro. I think it's called the Revolver Pro 2.0. And I haven't had a chance to put that out and test it yet. In fact, it's just coming out on the market right now. But I want to go back to the ones that I ran last year and talk about that technology, kind of my experience with it, and then some of the features of the new camera. And we'll go ahead and put one out here in the backyard and see how it works. But the technology itself is really interesting in a practical way for me as a bow hunter. I have a few food plots on the farm that are anywhere from, say, 1/4 of an acre to maybe 1.5 acres in size. And in order to monitor those spots, I would have to have 4 or 5 traditional cell cameras or trail cameras set up within those plots and around the fringe in order to capture the activity there. But with one Revolver 360, I can see anything that happens on those plots. And it's got, I believe it's got 6 zones where it can take a picture within any one of those 6 zones. And it's all programmable within the app. In fact, you can run the whole thing off of an app on your phone. You can see the images. You can tell the camera which zones to zero in on if you only want one zone. Or you can have it do a 360, and show you what's in every single zone each time the camera is triggered. Or, anyway, my point is, without going into a lot of detail of the different configurations, you can set it up any way that makes sense to you. And you can tell the system when to send you photos. I get mine 1 time a day at midnight. And I've got a number of reasons for that, which I'm not going to go into in this episode, but that makes sense to me. But you can get everything right away. There's even an on-demand functionality of these cameras where you can get whatever's there right now. You can get the shot. And there's video, there's audio. You can get both video and audio on the camera. So anyway, the technology is very, like I said, practical. It helps me figure out what's going on in some of these spots that otherwise I'd be guessing at best. The other thing I used to do a lot of was I'd put a pile of corn in front of my traditional trail camera, and that would bring more of the deer in the whole plot to one spot so I can get the picture of them. Well, this eliminates the need for that because now I don't have to concentrate them. I can get the shots of wherever they're at. Being able to tell where the deer comes from and where it goes in the food plot is really valuable information for me, because now you've got basically 6 cameras. He shows up in one corner, walks across, maybe chases the doe a little bit, and then leaves going a different direction. That gives you a lot of information. There was a buck that I hunted last season, for example. I only saw him once and didn't get the deer, but he showed up on one of my food plots during the late season, very late. Never had a chance to hunt him there, but I monitored that deer through January, February, up to the time when he shed his antlers. And I could see where he would come from in the evenings. And that gave me some idea of where he was most likely bedded. So I had pictures of him with antlers and without. Knowing it was the same deer, then we had enough information to go and find those sheds really quick, because again, I had a really good idea where he was coming from, which is most likely where he was bedded. So just the amount of information you can gain from these Revolver cameras is what makes them so interesting to me. So let's talk about this exact camera now, the 2.0, Revolver Pro 2.0. So I'm going to take it out, we'll take a look at it, and I'll get it connected to my app, and then we'll put this thing out and see how it does. I'm just going to show you everything that's in here. I haven't had the camera out yet to set it up, so you're going to see it as it happens. There's a lot of little parts and extras that are designed for connectivity. This would connect an external power pack. I've got the solar panel that Stealth sells. In fact, we could be reviewing this as well. This did really good for me. All of my cell cameras had one of these, at least the ones that were out in the open. Anything in the timber, I had to run off the batteries, but I had no problem going for a couple of months at a time with this solar pack, which is pretty impressive, really. So that's how I'm going to power this. I'm going to set it up, power it up. They've gone to a 32 gig internal memory system and a more powerful processor on the 2.0 series. So you get the capability of not having to use an SD card. And there's some issues with SD cards. I had some cards that the cameras didn't like. They're old junky cards. You'd put them in there and then the camera would say, I don't want this card. And so it's just a lot nicer when you don't have to worry about getting the right SD card. Let me plug in the external power. I charged up the solar panel first through the grid, and that's recommended. Get it to full charge, and that way, you know, the daily recharging from the solar part of it is enough to keep up with use. But you don't want to put it out there starting with a dead battery. There's a port that you can screw this into right on the side of the camera, which is pretty handy. I should be able to fire this up. I have to go into the app, push the plus button, and then it's got a little QR code scanner. I put that over the top of this camera, boom, carrier is activating. That's all I had to do to get this one started. I have an existing service plan. So that's step one. You got to get this camera active. You can see it's got a series of lights that flash and they tell you different things. One is, does it have enough battery? That's green. The other one is it communicating? It's, you know, figuring out, you know, how to find the network. That's flashing green. You might have a little trouble here because we're inside of a metal building. Well, it connected. Now it's flashing another green. Ah, you just took a picture of me. That would be really cool. Okay, camera's registered. Camera location. So I have the option to do a bunch of stuff within the app. I mean, it shows exactly where I'm at on this app. So anyway, the point is, there's a lot of extra things you can do in the app as far as the mapping part, showing what direction the camera is facing. And of course, with a 360, that doesn't really matter because it's not facing in one direction. You get to select your service plan. You want to add live view. Add live view. We haven't talked about that yet. This camera has a live view function. I think it goes up to 5 minutes at a time that you can click it on your app and it will let you select. We'll see. We haven't done it yet. This is the first time I've brought this thing out. It's got 6 different camera locations. It's following my hand as it moves. Pretty crazy, the technology. And you'd say, well, maybe the deer can hear it, and maybe I don't really want something like this in my food plot. In my experience, the deer, even that old buck that I was hunting, he walked right past it, just a few feet away several times, and it would follow him, click, 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 as he walked by. That's pretty cool. It does make a little bit of sound, but it doesn't seem like, in my experience, that the deer paid much attention to it. You'd have to be within a foot or two to hear it. The other one that I ran into last year was occasionally I'd get foggy images depending upon the weather conditions. And I know they've addressed that this year. They've found ways to isolate the lens a little bit more from the environment. So, you know, some of those issues with respect to image quality have gotten better. You know, I got all the information I needed from these revolvers, you know, to make good decisions about hunting. So every year, I'm sure they're going to get a little bit better. They're going to address some of the issues that come up using this technology. I know the 2.0 has addressed some of the issues that came up with last year's Series 1, and who knows in the future if there's other little things that come up that they find ways to fix. But in the meantime, the technology itself is so useful that even if it's not perfect, for me at least, it's good enough. But like I said, they have improved image quality, and that's pretty cool. So I've got this thing up and running. I'm gonna go put this out. I'm at my house now, so I'm not at the farm. So it's not a spot that, you know, I'm gonna put it out and leave it there. It's a spot that I just wanna set it out, let it sit overnight. We've got some deer that come around the backyard here. It'd be kind of fun if we could catch a couple of them, you know, sometime here in the next 24 hours and show that to you too. But even if not, you're gonna see pictures of putting the camera out and, you know, some of the things that that it picks up in the meantime, just so you can see image quality, a little bit about the number of images that it takes. You can control all of that on the app. You can control how many megapixels the images are on the app. You can tell it which zones to focus on, when you want the downloads, I guess it'd be uploads, to occur. Anything that you need to do with managing the camera itself, you can do in the Command Pro app. So it's not like once you put this thing out, you're stuck. You put it out there and that's it. You don't have to do a whole bunch of programming or do anything really special with the camera itself. You can do all of that later, whatever makes the most sense to you on the app, once you get back to your house or office or whatever. So let's go ahead and put it out and show you how that process works. I'm going to use the stand that Stealth sells separately. And you can buy this exact bundle. You can buy this camera, this solar panel charging pack, and the stand as a bundle for, I think it's just under $300, $290, I believe. And I recommend all three of them. I ran the stand last year too. And obviously, like I said, I ran the solar pack and all of it functioned the way that it's supposed to. So it's just kind of a one stop to get everything you need to put this thing out. And there's lots of, like I said, connecting type accessories that they send with the camera that allow you to connect it to a fence post, or you could always screw it into some kind of a holding fixture into a tree, or strap it around a tree. But a lot of that defeats the purpose of the 360. I want the camera sitting on top of the mounting system, so there's nothing that gets in the way of it taking a picture in any one of these 6 areas. So that's why I like their system. It allows me to put the camera right on top, nothing around it, and super easy to deploy. This wraps up my review of the Revolver 360 technology from StealthCam and a preview of their new Revolver 2.0 camera. I'm excited about putting this to work on the farm. I had great success with this technology last year, and I know they've made some really good improvements to this camera. So should be an interesting fall, and keep checking back. Obviously, we're going to bring you more episodes of the setup, but I'm going to start bringing you some action on the Bowhunting Whitetail series about how this camera is helping us pattern bucks. Well, I appreciate you joining me. I'll see you right back here again soon for another episode of The Setup. And remember to always dream big.